Hello, beautiful, lovely people of the world. This is a video specifically for Taurus for 2024. And yes, I will be mainly talking about Chinese astrology, but also put some insights, channeled insights, and for how I feel or how I sense this time is going to go for you. Definitely, with your Jupiter and Uranus in your first house for quite a long time, this year is going to still preserve you as the keeper, the groundskeeper, the best of the best, the bigger person, the luckier, wealthier, or more respected person. Sometimes a Taurus won't be that, but that's because your time has come to change. You have outlasted somewhere. If you don't wish to be somewhere, if you don't believe you should be there, it may just necessarily have to end, or it will put you into a different place. The whole concept here is not to rush and not to resist changes, as we do have Uranus and Jupiter in your house for some of this year. It is more important and more resound to give back thanks, to be reputable, to not disappear from certain karma or criticism, to try and make things right. So if you can imagine you're the teacher, you are the perpetrator of a cycle maybe, or you are the healer of it. You are a very, very interesting person to some people. And yes, that can also bring about danger. So, for example, walking down a shady street alone is a no-no, as Rabbit probably has taught already some of the Taurus people to not be there, not to be behind the driver's wheel if you don't feel that you can drive, or if you don't believe in who you are. So if you don't believe in your potential or your skill, it's not a good time to try to express it. It's more useful and relevant to be here and now and to be committal to that which you know and that which you are really comfortable and welcome to share. So it's not just about being proud, it's not just about being the pride or the wealth of a town or a city. It's not just about being great at it, it's also about a certain level of communication, peace, and poise that we need from you, and a certain type of silent, undefined, or underlined confidence that only glows. It doesn't gallop, it glows. So we're not in the galloping phase at all during this time. We are just in this blooming phase. Galloping will start in 2026 as we go into the horse year. This is not a big time change that we're looking for in Dragon. We are looking for a real goodness. We're looking for legacy. We're looking for special treatment. Sometimes it is very seductive to be around you, a Jupiterian sign. So you have Jupiter inside. So that means that you would look and feel wealthy and more successful than other people. People will not want maybe themselves to benefit. Sometimes they would want you to benefit. They want Taurus to be the natural king or the keeper of them, which is kind of also a harsh prize, because sometimes being the king or the keeper of other people, like being a facilitator, being the teacher, being the educator, can also be a very, very questionable place, as there is responsibility and a lot of power. And where there's wealth and power and money and status, there's also a lot of questions. And sometimes, as you age, also as you go through your lifetime, you'll see that as you were the most or you had the best, you also had the worst in some ways. So as you got to that next level of who you are, you might have also been kind of debilitated in another way. So for example, being the best dressed, being the king, being the healthiest, most shining person can often usually have a certain simple irony within it. And that's not something that we necessarily have to chat about, but it cannot be undone. So I do talk about the Achilles heel in the global video for this year, and that is definitely going to be seen by you more than anybody. Like for example, being very famous or being very worthy, and then at the same time not having any real friends anymore. Or for example, having a beautiful home that people love to visit, but they don't necessarily understand you. They just enjoy what you have become. So this is also about the mastery, the craft, and not the maestro. So sometimes, because this is a wooden year, a wooden dragon year, sometimes people want what you make and not who you are. So they could, for example, admire your beautiful face, but not really understand who you are on the inside. Or they want to go to your lovely home, but they don't really want to get to know you. Now, this is very, very artistic and creative, and some people actually really like it this way. So if you're a craftsperson, if you are naturally forming a community based on sales or based on a certain type of community guideline or guidance in terms of presenting your ideas, so like you're working in the arts or fashion and you are just selling things, so you're presenting yourself as a creative, no problem at all. So yes, of course, it is a beautiful time for creative Tauruses and people that really know their worth through their art, or people that really know how to collect. And if you're not nervous at all about loving luxury or loving beautiful things, yeah, this can also bring about a parasite as well. So this is also another thing to talk about. Sometimes there are parasitic communities, even parasitic people that don't really want you to feel whole, and sometimes they talk about you behind your back and diminish your energy, but they enjoy having you there, or they enjoy having you as a kind of hallmark of success, or the quintessential golden girl or golden boy. And it is definitely the golden boy, golden girl time, as you are the golden calf. And during this illumination of Jupiter, also as it continues from the previous year, you will get the most sometimes. And it is also kind of ugly on the other side. And maybe that sheen is off because Jupiter has been traveling through Taurus since 2023. So that sheen is off. So you might actually make believe another life. So if you are already there, this is where you find out some really crazy details. So for example, you have a partner, you have a commercial business, or you have friends or family or followers, and then you recognize they are there only for the sheen. Sometimes a person just wants to be around you for some very practical reason. So this is where sometimes it's really hard for a Taurus, but they have to find their way out and they got to let go. So sometimes Taurus can travel many roads or do many even obscene or crazy things to shed that obstacle, which is the internal innocence, which always prevails within a Taurus person, this incredible innocence and the gift of care, the gift of sensitivity. They wish to preserve it, and for that reason, they might go about arguing with people, doing very insane or even unclean things, or be dubbed a bad name. So why sometimes a Taurus goes bad, or they become a vagabond, or they forget everything and they let go? It's kind of like Buddha stepping out of his castle and deciding to have a life or pursue a life of poverty or travel, because he doesn't really care about having those things anymore. So it's like, I'm going to leave the crown behind and I'm going to find my own way, my own wake-up calls and my own innocence. And what can I do for you? There is nobody that can help you. If you suddenly want to leave a relationship, if you want to go adventuring, if you want to leave the castle for a shack, or if you want to, sorry about the dog in the background, or if you want to be with a person that doesn't necessarily respect you or see you, rather than somebody who's constantly trying to trust you, or having very intimate or very sensitive discussions with you, that is completely your choice. You know, so why does a king behave as a beggar sometimes, or pass themselves off as a pauper, is beyond me. But that is something that is very uncomfortable, and sometimes it can be very karmic, but this kind of depends on your own individual abilities and your support systems, and in the sense it is about your value and trust. So sometimes it could be a religious or spiritual reason why you would leave something good, or why you would start to do some very interesting seeking. So for example, you might be pursuing a religious or spiritual path such as yoga or a certain sect, rather than having it all. It's like, I don't want to have it all. I'm going to embrace, for example, Islam, or I'm going to embrace the Sikh culture or the yogi path, because I don't care about that anymore. You know, so sometimes it's actually very easy to see why. And sometimes it's hard to see what you have built in the previous years go. So for example, you could maybe have made an incredible environment, or a beautiful home, or a great career, and then something about you just goes, actually, no. And what to do here is to give you some praise. If you really want to go, that's your choice. So if you're packing your bag and you're leaving it all behind, even if it was previously quite good, it's fine, but maybe there is something tainted to it, and maybe you need to tell the story as to why So it could be that, for example, you married a beautiful woman who seemed very becoming and very bright and brave, and it turned out that she was only with you for your financial ability, you know, and to say, okay, I'm leaving this woman because I don't want to be constantly paying for everything and just being like a father figure to this person who hasn't got their own. That's not too bad, and it's also not okay. To be mean about it. So, like, the idea is basically if you are in a story, you're feeling regretful. There are lots of ways, there are lots of things where it's like honey is mixed with tar. Like, there is a spoon of tar that spoils a barrel of honey. That kind of colloquial saying. I think it's. I don't remember where it's from, that saying. It's from a certain culture. But like basically the beginning is as good as the ending though. So for example, if you have a lot of sadness and depression and disappointment about how things are going, realize the honey. Understand what is the honey and what is the good in it. And also understand what is the tar. And try to define things a little bit better. You don't necessarily need to be sad or angry or distant from source in the situation. You don't need to get really, really uppity, as they say in New Zealand. It's more about giving a healthy and simple rule or maybe outcome, or making simple choices. Maybe you don't have to necessarily leave a certain situation, but here nobody can help you. If you are all of a sudden designing a different life, if you have completely completed a cycle and to no avail want to leave, or you want to let go, or you want to apply your power elsewhere, you would need to be kind of guided, I think, in terms of how you make that choice. So like leaving your career and deciding to be a traveler suddenly, or being completely alone on the road, or letting go of your status and everything that you have accomplished to be available to something or somebody else. That's not necessarily a good thing. That's not necessary in some stories, but there are lots of lives probably saved or contained within that choice. So, like Buddha leaving his castle and going out there and living a simple life has helped to form many a psyche and helped to define things differently for many, probably millions and upon millions of people. So, in a sense, your choice and your talents and where you are and where you're going and how you define your life and what you believe is safe or not, or what you trust and what you don't trust, what you feel is a big karmic change for many people. So people look at you and they're like, wow, that's where I was last few years. And this is where I'm going. It's like, wow, this Taurus has supported me through my decision making. So don't be afraid. So also don't be after it. Sometimes it so happens that some years later or even days later, somebody might repeat your story, or they might start to even repeat your story to other people. Hey, I know this Taurus, and this is how they were going in 2023, and this is what they've caused as a big karmic change or shift in 2024. And actually, based on all of their outcomes, I'm going to do exactly the same. So it's very easy for you to do something that is up and coming and very real, and it could probably solve a lot of lives and make a lot of promises. So this is not necessarily about me or other people judging or making your story for you, or trying to judge or understand or unpack your history, but it is going to be definitely on show. So any moves you do, money you make or money put away, if you are buying crypto, or if you're doing anything, if you are making a holy home in the middle of nowhere, you know, if you decided to leave your job to create a giant family of four kids, you know, like it's fine. You know, there are always going to be, I suppose, interesting ways that other people might not necessarily understand what you're doing, but maybe by 2026, 27, it's going to be repeated by somebody. So it might come back to you what you're going to be doing, what you're going to be up to in this 2024 Dragon year is not going to be maybe seen and fully realized as it's going to be a very fresh or raw change today, but in 2026 there are going to be probably quite a lot of people wishing to understand more of what you did, or they're going to be discussing the moves that you make in 2024 as very real, and is going to eventually be a disabling or enabling of another person's process. So, for example, your son or daughter could be very moved by something that you do this year. And it could be also that people find out about you through the newspaper, or they're somehow supplied information, or they're influenced by what you are doing, and only later on do you really see like this big influence that might be very glowing and golden by 26, 27. So in some forms there I feel are going to be definitely mistakes, and there's going to be a lot of mistakes and karmas or crises during this time, or small illnesses or issues, but because of how far you've come, I think you have stopped fretting and you just realize, yeah, sometimes there is a fight, or sometimes there is a choice, and it is just hard to make this choice. So I do definitely get it as to what for Tauruses are doing certain things, even if they have a lot of issues within them, because it looks like Taurus really, really, really knows, and they've accepted a certain drawback. You know, so for example, you're accepting certain fines or certain issues, even if other people don't. So I feel that there is a no problem feeling about many Tauruses during this particular year, as you might just basically say to me, well, it's just what it takes, okay, this is just how it is. Like I have this situation in my life, and I'm still going this way, even though there are hiccups, even though it is hard. So in a sense, I feel there is a lot of juice and fruit, like fruiting to Taurus. There are a lot of really good wake-up calls for other people, nice advice, and just nice histories made during this particular time, as you do feel to me like, of course, the person of influence through the majority of this year. And then basically how to be is not to break your back, not to break your mind over what it is that you are trying to create. People are going to go, maybe some support systems are going to end when we go with Jupiter into Gemini, when we got Gemini, Jupiter. Some things are going to go. Maybe, of course, this is not going to be for every single Taurus, but your previous company or that feeling of being elite is probably going to end for some. And then there is going to be no choice but to try and find the truth wherever you have ended up. You know, so for example, you ended up with just a couple of bags on the road. You don't really have that power after a while. So in 2024, in August, definitely, quite a lot of Tauruses are just basically saying, hey, I think I lost my light. I'm not really sure if the decision process that I've made in the last few years is really that good. So there is a feeling of question marks and decisions. Did I really need to, for example, have a child at this time of my life? Did I really have to try this course? Did I have to carry this bag of stones, this bag of rocks? Sometimes it's very, very big what Tauruses might undergo. Maybe they're going through some kind of religious or spiritual initiations, or they're trying to do such a big job, and that's going to be a no-show from others. So in terms of like how to guide yourself in this year, try not to seek commitments from other people. There are going to be inevitably drop-offs. There's going to be a lot of thought and energy given to somebody else. Eventually, those support systems or those ideas are going to evolve, or there's going to be nobody there. So I'm not telling you to necessarily be worried. I'm just saying try to figure this really, really carefully. So you might also have a concept that is really in right now and is really hooked up to other people's futures that eventually loses popularity. So that could also be. Or maybe you have a very big group of friends that support you, but then they eventually choose somebody else to support, or you become somebody in the background. You know, so in a sense, you don't have to do it today. But please consider all of this working that you're doing, all of these ideas, these schemes, these visions these thoughts, you have to really measure it, because sometimes there are going to be no supports. And it's going to be hard to start your life in a new territory. For example, moving house is going to be not very gentle for you. And a lot of that previous uh, reputation, a lot of that previous joy or that previous community may not be there for you once the time comes. And that is going to be very, very sad later. But I look and I see that you might work this out. It is just not very easy sometimes to be around you where you are in an uncertain ground. So do you choose certainty that might be tainted? Or do you choose a completely different group of people? Do you choose a completely different path or state of self? Maybe a completely different skill set, a completely different knowledge bank, or a completely different system of information or system of life. It's not going to be that difficult for you later to recall this year, though, and see, I got that right, or that's not so good, but this is great. So I'm actually feeling that you will inevitably come to your senses. And even though I'm seeing sometimes for Taurus, like breaking them, like their brain, wrecking their brain, trying to figure out what to do, I'm seeing you in 2026, 27 going, somehow it didn't make sense in 2024. But actually, if I think about it, I think I got it right. Or it was actually a real choice. Although that was really difficult to imagine, wow, like actually if I put this against this, wow, I can understand why this had to happen, you know. So in a sense, I'm also seeing most people eventually referencing you as the person that got it right. But is it a real happiness? You know, is it a real truth? Not always. I don't see necessarily Taurus as being incredibly free and incredibly happy. I don't feel that there is going to be an extreme rising to many. I feel they are carrying so much vulnerability and realizations. Maybe they see the world for what it is, and it is so hard to just go and feel and sense and emote. So it's not just this. You have a lot of responsibilities. Uranus is naturally keeping you contracted, keeping you kind of shallow and thorough in some ways, and it's not going to get there. So some of the time, it might not fall the way that you imagine. Sometimes you will have to dream something even bigger than you. So some of these prizes that you're looking for are not going to be, they're not going to be until many years to come. So like sometimes you're looking for a result and it may not be given, but a really, really big, grand result can be achieved in 26, 27, even 28, 29. But it may not be this particular year that gives it to you easy. So especially after Jupiter goes into Gemini. So we don't have to necessarily be there with you waiting for your beckoning call or seeing what you do, but in some senses, you're not gonna sometimes be there. You're going to flicker out of certain communities and flicker into new communities. There's like a no question real awesomeness in that which you're doing, but it is a little bit between the lines and it's a little bit behind the scenes. And though I do talk a lot about this year being very open and like heart bearing and very, very intimate with the soul, it's a very different type of intimacy for you. Ooh, the lights just switched off. Switched on, sorry. And it's going to be, I think, a very, very deep and committal growth. We had a power outage just before. That I feel some of you guys are going to have to underline or have the courage for. So this is long-term results. This is long-term planning. And some of these ideas are going to be ingenious, like getting off the grid, making a family, doing a completely different thing, making a process that doesn't even exist on this planet or hasn't been in use for thousands of years, you know, making a very unique idea, you know, following maybe an indigenous path, being somebody else sometimes for some people, you know, being illegible, not being fully seen or known for who you are yet. And that comes with a certain feeling of sorrow. So I'm definitely feeling that there is this ingenuity, but yet there is this kind of fine print and this kind of slightly dangerous time of changing one's life or changing one's mind to such an extreme And yeah, there is some cruelty, and yeah, like it's like walking up the hill carrying like a bag of potatoes or something. There are lots of people trying so hard to emote and evolve around you, but not that many people might be able to support your frequency. Not that many people might be able to feel or see their own joys if they're fully involved or evolved by you. So it is better to do it by yourself, not to employ anybody. If you are going to cardinally shift out of one way of living into another, if you really designed for yourself a concept, it is good to do it by yourself. So to be self-employed, or to at least have some power and spending ability, or to have everything completely in its place for you. So it's so bad now to be asking for money. It's bad to be counting on somebody else's income, as it is painful for them and it hurts. So to have somebody who's a provider for you would be very painful for them and you and other people around. So it's just about you making your own story and your own territory and writing your own philosophy in a sense. And that eventually, inevitably, will evolve into something better and better. It's just going to be a little bit slow. It's going to be a little bit slow. And yeah, September comes and we walk into a closer proximity to the year of the snake, 2025, and is going to be a much better scheme. It is going to be much better, much cleaner, much healthier, more alkaline. Maybe it has a lot more gifts to give, but it is maybe a very unresolved story. And as we come into the end of 2024 and onto 25, they are, wow, amazing. Maybe you might get letters of respect. Maybe you might get some of your previous students come in. Maybe you might get a very, very amazing letter of apology or connection, or you might get a certain regret washed out of your life as just a little bit crazy. And snake isn't an easy energy. It's going to be a little bit of a trickster energy for you guys. So I will be back with another prognosis specifically for 2025 for you by the end of the year. But for now, this is all I got for 2024. Enjoy. And yes, also have a look. I have a book for 2024 that I've written at the end of 23. It's available now in ebook and physical format. Also, if there are ads in this video, I have nothing to do with it. I don't monetize anything. YouTube has been putting ads through my videos, and I don't know how to turn that off. It's not working. And yes, what else? Here's my website also, and the links below. And of course, you can get a painting or reading or something from me. So keep in touch. Be gentle with yourselves during this particular time, and I'll see you with the next video. Bye.